Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Record Rangers podcast. My name's Gavin Berry and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Record Sports' Scott McDermott and Douglas Dickie, who will give us a fan's view from all things going to Ibrox, all the latest. There's no shortage of things to discuss. I think, Scott, I was reading your opinion piece on the Daily Record there. You said there's a list as long as the Copeland Road of problems that are going on at Ibrox just now. Russell Martin now winless in 5 Premiership games. The Union Bears have released a statement joining many others who want him to go. They're throwing Patrick Stewart into the mix as well. And then with that team bonding session, which Martin hopes will help get them back on track. Richard Gough credits Ian Durrant for coining the phrase, the team that drinks together wins together during the 9 in a row era. Do you think, Douglas, in years to come, we'll be talking about the team that swims together wins together? No?
Well, he certainly looks out of his depth, that's for sure. But no, I mean, when that came through yesterday, I think there was a bit of a sense of disbelief among fans. It was, the phones were kind of lighting up, the WhatsApp groups. I think in isolation, if things were going okay, he took the team to Loch Lomond for a wee team bonding exercise. You know, I've climbed Connacht Hill. I've swam in Loch Lomond. It's very nice. Mm-hmm. But I don't think right now, when we're 5 games without a win in the Premier League, we've got a big League Cup game. This is a huge game now coming up on Saturday. I think fans might have expected there to be, some time on the training ground to try and formulate something, because right now we're not seeing. We're not kind of seeing anything at all of what we were promised about Russell Martin's football. Every red flag that was raised, even when his name was just mooted for the job, has come to fruition. Yeah. We're so ponderous. We're easy to play against. I think Hearts, notwithstanding they had at least 2 big refereeing decisions go their way on Saturday, I think Hearts were absolutely value for their win, and even without those refereeing decisions, I think Hearts might have went on and won the game anyway, regardless. Yeah. So, we talk about the sink and swim metaphor. There's probably a better metaphor from Saturday in the fact that Bonnie Blue put in an appearance, but as it's a family show, Gavin, I won't go any further than that. But I think that just kind of sums up our season right now.
Russell took the squad to the Bonnie Blue Banks. Is that what you want to say? Sorry, there's far too many puns. Scott, this is serious stuff. We're having a laugh. What are you going to say?
Who's Bonnie Blue, Gav? I don't know. You might enlighten me. I don't know who she is.
She's an influencer, is that right? No. But seriously, on a serious note, Scott, I mean, Russell Martin took them wild water swimming, and then a wee dander up Connacht Hill. As Douglas said, photos started to emerge on social media yesterday. You're starting to see, can this be true? And as Douglas says, it is the optics, isn't it? If they'd been unbeaten, nobody would be batting an eyelid. It's the fact, the position they're in. But obviously they're getting panned for it. He can do no right just now. It's open season on Russell Martin, so obviously he's being ridiculed for it. Is there anything that you can, is there any positive you can see from it if you were trying to play devil's advocate? Cold water is good for recovery, we're told.
Well, we'll see if it's been any good come Saturday. In terms of team bonding and what it might have done for the group. Look, you're right, it's how it looks. I mean, there's one great kind of picture I think somebody posted on Facebook just for a fan, basically saying, no, they're going to walk up Connacht Hill. The last thing you expect to see is a full Rangers squad walking down, coming towards you, and it just kind of summed up the whole kind of shambles, this whole kind of mess that Rangers are in at the minute. What it is, Gav, I think, is a bit of desperation. And that's not really a criticism of Russell Martin, but he's trying everything. He's at the end of his tether. You could see that in his post-match press conference on Saturday. He looked like a beaten man. There was an air of resignation about the whole thing. That's why I'm surprised that he's actually still in post as we speak. But he's clearly going to try everything to try and get a tune out of these players. I think it'll work. Probably not. I tend to agree with Douglas. I mean, these things these things are normally better when it's a winning team, but they're maybe going through a wee kind of bad patch. Maybe 2 or 3 games where they're not quite at it, and the manager will just kind of refresh it and get them going again. This team is at pretty much rock bottom, 10th in the league. Could be bottom come next week, which is incredible to think about. So no, I think it's a bit of desperation. It's the manager trying anything he can to, as I say, try and get something out of these players. But listen, I would doubt whether it will do the trick, because, like Douglas says, I think they're just miles off it just now in terms of the levels required. But we'll see on Saturday if there's any difference, because it feels like we're saying this every week just now. But I mean, if they get knocked out of the cup on Saturday night, I mean, how does he continue? It's just difficult to see how he survives.
I think I know it's a different level, but I remember, years ago when I played amateur, and I remember what the dressing room was like, and players smell weakness.
Yeah.
And that yesterday to me was the sign of a weak manager. And I just can't imagine that will have galvanised a squad of young guys to go out on Saturday and win, given the position we're in right now. Actually, I just absolutely.
Well, that was one of the things I was going to ask you, Scott. Do you think he would have gone to James Tavernier, the captain, and said, "Look, I'm thinking of this. What do you think?" Or do you think he just ordered them in? Do you think they had a choice? Do you think? What do you think? Do you think it was just a 3-line whip? Right, everybody get there.
We don't know. I mean, my gut feeling is he probably just told them that it was happening. Yeah. I think he probably just says to him. It was interesting looking at the pictures. Also, it looks as if Nico Raskin was there, who's obviously been at the picture after his fallout with the manager. But I mean, he was there. I don't know whether that tells you something, whether that suggests Raskin is properly back in the fold and he'll be back involved on Saturday again. They certainly could do with him. But no, I think he's probably just, as I say, he'll feel as if he's exhausted every avenue at the start of the season with these players in terms of trying to get a performance and trying to get a victory. And he's probably thought, listen, I don't know if it's to do with, he's obviously been big on talking about the anxiety and about players being scared and about getting them to relax and taking a bit of weight off their shoulder. I don't know whether he's maybe just thought, right, look, forget training, forget the games, let's just go out together and have a bit of fun and have a laugh and enjoy each other's company. And somehow maybe on Saturday when they turn up, they might feel a bit more relaxed and a bit more together. But with the atmosphere the way it is at Ibrox, and the whole kind of the feeling, the strength of feeling that the fans have got towards the manager, it's just difficult. I mean, as soon as they cross that white line and they hear the booing or the first misplaced pass or they concede a goal, that's when these players seem to go into their shells. And that's been the biggest problem so far this season.
Yeah. It's not the first time a manager's done things like this. I was looking back at Neil Warnock got his players all round for a barbecue and pitch and putt, and I think there was a bit of karaoke there. And then Gary Caldwell at Partick Thistle was a famous one where they spent a day with the army and then got the SES to fake kidnap them. There was actually players in tears. So, they have taken this kind of drastic action, but as we have said, it's just the way it looks. But I have to say, some of obviously there is anger amongst the fans, Douglas, but I have to say I think at times like this, when you look on social media, there is a lot of good humour as well, the fans, because if they don't laugh, they'll cry. But there was my son actually texted me yesterday when he'd read the story on the Daily Record, and he said, do you think the 49ers think Russell Martin's Ted Lasso because he ends up winning the league?
Well, and I think that's, like, you spoke about other clubs doing it. I think part of the problem for Russell Martin, rightly or wrongly, to take them wild water swimming kind of feeds into this narrative that he's some sort of new age manager who's got these kind of new fangled ideas. And I think that doesn't help the public perception of him. But that's maybe not something he can control. But from a purely from a purely fan
Right.
point of view, I want to see the players on the training ground sorting this out, because they don't look like they know what they're meant to be doing when they cross that white line.
Well, I mean, that's what Barry Ferguson said, didn't he? Funnily enough, that's what he said. He said, if when asked what he would do, or when he was asked about the wild water swim, he says, I would be having them on the training ground. I mean, this is a guy who was in the job only a few months ago. So, I mean, we need to take what he says pretty seriously, because he knows how to beat us so much.
Gav, you're laughing at the start there, making a joke about the team that kind of drinks together.
I was going to ask you that. Would that be better?
That to me, that would be better. I mean, honestly, take them out for a night out. Let their hair down, have a few bevies. I mean, I don't think their bags going up Connacht Hill would have been had 6 cans in them. Do you know what I mean? Like we probably have. But I remember Scott Arfield saying last season at Falkirk. Obviously, Falkirk were doing brilliant, top of the league.
Yep.
Lying going for promotion. And then they this wee run of like 3 or 4 games where they couldn't win, and suddenly it kind of looked in doubt a wee bit. And Arfield apparently he walked into the change room after one of the games and says, "Right, that's it. Everybody tomorrow we're out for a full day session, night out." And look, it worked a treat. And that's what I was saying at the start. It's not, these things are normally when a team, that togetherness and spirit is already established, but they're just kind of going off track a wee bit, and it's just to get it going again, just to remind them almost what they've kind of got. Rangers aren't really in that position at the moment, but in all seriousness, I do think maybe just having a day out or a night out together would have maybe be better for them. It's as if that's what they need.
It's funny, I was watching Cole Donaldson tell that story just this week. Or last week, maybe in an interview, and he said the players were all a bit stunned. It was like Arfield ordering them to turn up the next day. But I suppose, I mean, we're talking about, Richard Gough and Ian Durrant and the team that drinks together. Obviously, that 9-in-a-row team, had a special team spirit, but it was also a different era. I mean, I know, we're talking about, but do you think that, could you imagine, for example, Arsenal or Man City or Liverpool downstairs? Maybe they would. I'm just asking you, do you think that kind of thing would happen down there if they had either gone off the rails or started badly? Could you imagine players like modern day players doing that?
I don't think it's a one-off it would do any harm, Gav, even for these top teams. I know what you're saying, the 9-in-a-row era. No, the difference was then that squad were doing it every week. Every Tuesday they'd be out for bonding sessions. No, that's not going to happen now, the way modern football is, in terms of fitness, nutrition, all that kind of stuff. But as a one-off, and that Arfield example's the perfect one, I think as a one-off, just to blow the cobwebs away, let the hair down, a bit of team spirit. I don't think it would have done any harm. And I think in Rangers' predicament just now, that might have actually helped them a bit better. I don't know. You don't know for certain, obviously, but you get the feeling that's almost what they need.
And I suppose the other thing is that, it was Monday. They were out on Monday there. It's a rare free midweek because the games have been coming thick and fast. So even if they did go to the pub on Monday and they all just sort of let their hair down one day, they would be well recovered by Saturday.
I like the bonding session we're calling it. Let me tell you, Russell Martin's driving me to bonding sessions right now, certainly on Saturday night. So, I mean, I think it's maybe telling something more about Scottish football that we're in 2025 and we still have, here's an idea, let's all go out and get blitz.
Yeah.
Personally, I still think they should have been on the training park every day this week to sort this out, because otherwise, as things stand right now, I think we're going to go to the League Cup on Saturday. I think Hibs will be really up for it. They won in their last visit to Ibrox, remember? So, and if we do go out, then this is just going to be thrown, right back in his face.
Yeah,
you're saying about being on a training pitch. Listen, I know we're kind of half joking. I don't totally disagree with you. The only thing I'd say is on Saturday when I turned up at Ibrox, I genuinely thought, probably naively, but I'm thinking going there, right, he's had 2 weeks with him now on the training pitch. No, international break. I know a few of them are away on international duty, but he had a lot of the squad there. It was that reset that he was crying out for, the end of the transfer window. I just thought he'll have got them all together in those 2 weeks. He'll have done proper work with him. He's not really had a chance for the European games and cup games and everything else. And I thought, this is going to be it. This is going to be the day you're going to see something. He's had so much time with him now, and you're going to see it right for the off, because the necessity to go and win that game. It's a massive game on Saturday. And honestly, see that first 15, 20 minutes, I'm watching it thinking, there's absolutely nothing. Still nothing. Nothing to show for the...
I mean, Hearts had 3 clear glimpses at goal before they even scored. I mean, not great chances, but even after 10 minutes, all because, Scott, I thought the same as you to a certain extent, and certainly that was kind of talk in the pub before it. Surely he's got them sorted after a couple of weeks in the training ground. But after 10 minutes, even before Hearts scored, you could feel the anxiety through the crowd. Yeah. I mean, Russell Martin talks about the players being anxious. You know, he's making the fans
anxious. That's the thing, Scott. I mean, he talks about players being anxious and all this. You know, we know it obviously can't be easy just now with the crowd. But if we look at sorry, I'm just going to try and call up the team actually from Saturday. But I mean, if we look at the team, you know, Jack Butland, James Tavernier, John Souttar, Diomande. I mean, these guys were all there last season. It's not like they don't know how to win a game of football. And you're not telling me, Connor Barron, you're not telling me these other new guys are just suddenly, I mean, so where is that anxiety coming from? Surely the anxiety must be coming from what the manager's asking them to do. No?
I think that's part of it. I mean, usually the same as me. You've seen quotes being dug up this week for Russell Martin from his time at Swansea and Southampton, where he spoke about anxiety there as well. So he clearly, it's not exclusive just to be playing at Ibrox. Look, he's trying to get across. He's basically trying to get the point across that with the fans not getting behind me and behind the team, it's no helping. It's no helping. They're petrified to make a mistake. And you're right. No, you've rounded off 4 or 5 guys there who have been there and should be able to handle it. But the big question is on the new players. And obviously you've got new players there like Aarons and Rothwell who now can't get in the starting 11. Emmanuel Fernandez, who was signed for 2.5-3 million quid, can't even go on the bench on Saturday. And so those are questions about recruitment, and specifically, especially with the likes of Aarons and Rothwell and that. If Rangers sign players who struggle to deal with big pressure, I mean, surely nowadays, in terms of recruitment, when you're signing players, we hear all the time for these sporting directors and recruitment gurus about the background checks and about how everything is covered, in terms of looking at a player's character, personality, where they've come from, experiences they've had. So is Russell Martin seriously saying that the majority of these players have come to Ibrox but actually can't deal with the pressure, can't deal with the intensity? I mean, that's a damning indictment on the recruitment strategy over the summer, and it would be a big worry for me. So
yeah, I think sorry, Scott, just I think Russell Martin is the main issue for me. He's completely unqualified to be manager of Rangers Football Club, but he's not the only issue. The Union Bears highlighted Patrick Stewart. Yeah, I don't think Kevin Thelwell's covered himself.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that he wasn't named.
So for me, the chat on Saturday again was, we don't have a bad squad. Someone else would get more out of this squad. Now I agree that someone else would get more out of this squad, but I think there are issues within the squad. I think it's really unbalanced. I think ultimately football games are won in the middle of the park, and Rangers midfield looks weak. It looks weaker with our best midfielder sitting in the stands.
Yeah.
There's definitely issues there. We filled it with loan players who don't, I don't mind the loan market to kind of supplement. So I think maybe 1 or 2 guys who are going to start every week as loan players is fine. But we've started games where 4 of the guys playing in the back 5 or 3 of the guys playing in the back 4, aren't our players. And yet we've got a boy like Fernandez who was spent money on, as Scott says, can't even get in the squad. So, there are major issues there. The likes of Gassama and Ant-Man, I think, are good players, but I don't know if they look suited to playing the style that Russell Martin wants to, and certainly to be playing in a team that still managed to have 60% possession, with an £8 million striker on the bench. And I'm not going to judge him based on a 10-minute cameo you know, in a game that we were chasing.
Mhm.
But the fact that he was on the bench, you know, I don't think bodes great. We spoke the last time I was on about maybe trying to get him and Miovski together.
That's right.
Doesn't look like he's going to do that. You know, there are other issues at Ibrox, not just Russell Martin, but Russell Martin would be a really easy fix, in my opinion, and it's one that needs to be rectified.
Yeah,
You mentioned sorry, Gav. You touched on the midfield there, Douglas, and you're right. I mean, it's quite an achievement for Rangers to spend £30 million in the summer, and you've still got Connor Barron, with all due respect, at the centre of your midfield, and the guy that you're relying on to go and dictate play. And by the way, even aside from Connor Barron, the other two who are in there, Diomande and Raskin, if he comes back, again, decent players, but most Rangers fans had decided last season that wasn't quite good enough. They weren't quite good. That area needed strengthened. It wasn't. Diomande and Raskin weren't good enough because they were miles off winning the league again. So that area had to be strengthened. Rothwell really is the only guy to come in, as a proper midfielder, and so far he's not been good enough. And now he can't get in the starting 11. So to spend that amount of money and still go into a game like Saturday with Connor Barron and Diomande as your two main central midfielders just isn't good enough.
Sorry, I was just reading back on your column there, Scott, that we put out, or your opinion piece that we put out earlier on Record Sport. Very good piece. And within that, you're talking about how Patrick Stewart wasn't even at Ibrox on Saturday when Ibrox was toxic and his managers standing in the dugout and he wasn't even there.
Yeah. No, I think Patrick Stewart has to put his head above the parapet now, Gav, because he's the CEO. He's the guy who's running the club on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Russell Martin is his appointment. I was at the press conference when he got unveiled, and Patrick Stewart said that he was the outstanding candidate after what felt like an age. I think it was like a 3-4 month kind of pursuit to get this guy when there were other candidates. According to Patrick Stewart, he was the outstanding guy. So come out and explain to supporters why he was the outstanding guy. Explain why it's taking so long for Rangers to win a league game under Russell Martin, and explain why Patrick Stewart's convinced that he'll eventually get it right if the board are going to continue to back him. I think that's the least fans deserve it. As I've said in the piece, Patrick Stewart's making these day-to-day decisions. He's charging, Rangers are about to charge fans nearly £200 for a Europa League package, and yet they can't win a domestic game. I think the least they're entitled to is an explanation, or at least some kind of statement for the CEO, on what he thinks is the issues at the moment, and how they're going to be resolved. I just think too many. I've touched on the piece. I think for too many years now, for too long, people have had the Ibrox. People don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to take accountability for decisions they make. And this club's been making bad decisions now for too many years. And Patrick Stewart's got to stop that. I mean, you're right. Kevin Thelwell's got to take responsibility as well. Russell Martin obviously is going to be the head on the chopping block ultimately, but I think Patrick Stewart has to come out and say something. And listen, that goes for Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marathi as well. But Stewart is the guy, as I say, who's supposedly there every day running the place, and yet we've not heard a peep from him, despite this kind of shambolic start to the campaign.
But the 49ers, Scott, are a huge global institution, sporting institution. They've obviously got leads, Are they really going to abandon? They've invested this money. They've taken over the club. I mean, can you see them abandoning, their plan this early and then holding their hands up? The other thing is they're not here. They're probably not seen. They won't know. They won't really. Well, I know that part of the reason they said they got involved was because of the passion, but they won't actually know until now. This will be a bit of a kind of rude awakening to them. The backlash. I mean, do you think they will listen to fans and They didn't get to where they are by not making decisions, staying strong.
Gav, I don't think it's a case of listening to fans. I mean, it's there in front of their eyes. I mean, when the 49ers came in.
Oh yeah, but they'll argue it's 5 games or however many 5 league games, but they'll say 3 months into a long-term project. That's what they'll say. Look, I'm just
no, because it's not a long-term project. That's not what they said when they came in. No, this was a long-term project. They didn't say they were going to give up 1, 2 titles, 5 in a row, 6 in a row to Celtic while they get their house in order. That wasn't the message when they came in. The message when they came in was their aim was to make Rangers the top club in Scotland again and to do it quickly. So the league is over by mid-September.
They could be the bottom club.
It doesn't need to be one or the other. Getting rid of Russell Martin doesn't mean that they need to give up on their kind of longer term vision. There's no evidence in Russell Martin's back catalogue to make us think that he's going to be a success at Rangers. There's no shame in putting your hand up and saying, "Look, we got it wrong."
But you know what these. I mean, an institution of that size is quite an admission to come in and to then say after 3 months to say after 3 months. We made a big mistake here.
I think it would be stronger of them to admit that mistake. Yeah. I think the thing is the whole kind of joy or optimism of the takeover's gone. Yeah. And now people are asking questions of those in charge. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think you can't manage a club or you can't run a club like Rangers for San Francisco. We need guys on the ground. Mm-hmm. Patrick Stewart's come from probably the only other club in the UK that might be worse run than Rangers. And and he's coming here. It's just the whole thing is just it's baffling. Like you say, we could be conceivably going to that Livingston game bottom of the league.
It's hard. I mean, can you believe you're saying those words?
Well, I mean, I remember 1989 when we were bottom after two games. Believe it or not, I know it's hard to believe. I can remember that.
See, 2 games is different. I mean,
5 games.
You only start seeing the league table series after 6 games.
6 games. So, 6 games. And I think what worries me is I don't think we'll get relegated.
No.
But you see what can happen with a club like Man United, Tottenham. When you get into a funk, it can be very, very hard to turn it around when you've got guys in charge, as it was at Tottenham and at Man United, who are not qualified. Yeah. And we're seeing it here.
And it's coinciding with the emergence of Hearts, as we sort of said. Now, we don't know how long. We have seen clubs outside the old firm start well and then they fade away. But we don't know.
And not just Hearts, because Hibs look a decent team this season. Dundee United look a decent team. Mm-hmm. I think for me, the most damning indictment of Russell Martin is on Saturday, he was not the best manager at Ibrox. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you right now, I think there's 8 or 9 managers in the SPFL Premiership would make a better fist of it.
I mean, that's the thing, Scott. I mean, Derek McInnes has been discussed, and we've discussed him for so long. And Rangers fans, at certain times, have turned their nose up at Derek McInnes, and only to end up with, Pedro Caixinha and Martin Warburton and others that have, beaten him to the job. And still, whenever his name comes up, there's always this. You think, what more would this guy have to do? I mean, why? Why?
In my opinion, he kind of should have been. Yeah, he should have been Rangers manager before.
I think we have agreed on that. Do you think the opinion amongst Rangers fans has now changed? You still see it when his name's mentioned. It's almost like they don't want to admit it.
I think it's changing though, Gav, and I mean that even out with Derek McInnes. I even mean in a general sense. I can sense, and Douglas will maybe know better than me, but I don't think Rangers fans have helped themselves, if you've touched on the last 4 or 5 years, in terms of wanting a specific type of manager and turning their noses up at another type of manager, namely Derek McInnes. And by the way, it's the same with players. I'm fed up talking about the unbelievable decision of Rangers not to go after Lewis Ferguson at the time, who was to me was a future Rangers captain. Rangers turned their noses up at him, and a lot of fans turned their noses up as well, and they've now ended up with egg in their face. Lawrence Shanklin's another one. I mean, Douglas talking about Derek McInnes being the best manager at Ibrox Saturday. Lawrence Shanklin was the best striker at Ibrox on Saturday, and Rangers. I just find it unbelievable that in the summer no, this guy, 29 years old, a proven goal scorer in the Premiership. Probably you could get him for 8-9 grand a week or a free transfer, and he's a Rangers fan. And yet, as far as we're led to believe, not a single call was made to Lawrence Shankland or his representatives. And Rangers instead have decided to go and spend 8 million on Sharmiti, another 4.5 on Majovski, over 12 million quid on 2 strikers, one of whom is unproven at this level. So there's been a snobbery on the part of Rangers fans and the club with certain things over the years. But I genuinely think that's turning a wee bit now. I just sense, even just online, listening to a lot of punters, they've got so low now that it's time to get back to basics. And if that means a Derek McInnes, or it means signing more kind of Scottish-based players, I think supporters are all for that. Now look, the Derek McInnes ship might have sailed. I mean, he's a brilliant job at Hearts now, proper backing, obviously with Tony Bloom getting in there, a genuine chance of going and disrupting the top of the table and going and challenging. I want to say Rangers and Celtic, but it's not. It's just Celtic, obviously, at the moment. So how do you go and if it arises that the vacancy's there again? How do you go and get him? Is that possible? Well, they've missed a trick. McInnes should have been manager of the Rangers long before now. I mean, we've spoken about it here before. I mean, Walter Smith, greatest manager obviously in the club's, certainly in my lifetime, arguably in the club's history. It's common knowledge that he felt Derek McInnes was the right guy to be Rangers manager. Now, if Walter Smith thinks that, I don't think any fan would be entitled to argue it.
If the axe did fall on Russell Martin, it's going to be difficult to get Derek McInnes now, as you say, given his job. So, I mean, who then, if Russell Martin was to go, who? We see Nuno Espirito Santo available. Is that too ambitious? Jose Mourinho's name keeps cropping up. Sean Dyche keeps cropping up. Kevin Muscat will, presumably, his name will be mentioned again because he's continually linked with it. I mean, who realistically could Rangers get? Do you think Santo, would he be?
I'm not sure you could get him, Gav,
no.
in terms of the money involved.
Money, right, okay.
And just the offers and the interest that he'll have. I mean, he takes Nottingham Forest into Europe, defying all odds last season in the Premier League, and now he's out of job. He must have offers a go-go. So whether he'd be tempted by Rangers, I doubt it, and whether they can afford them, I would doubt it.
Is the one good thing, but when we're having this discussion, it is one of the, before, when Clement was going through a sticky spell, it was always like, the club simply can't afford to get rid of him. Is this the one sort of positive? There's no positive, I suppose, with changing managers, but it's not going to financially cripple the club. They can make the change. They've got the money, as you say. If they're going to hold their hands up and say, we've made a mistake, they've got the money there to do it, and it's not going to put them in danger.
I don't know.
Is that the good thing, that they could keep changing managers and afford to do it, whereas previously the money wasn't there?
I mean, I don't think we can afford not to change the manager right now. That's kind of main point. But but obviously you need that stability. One of the big issues, one of the reasons a lot of people maybe stuck by Martin a bit longer was, we can't keep changing managers in October, going through this kind of cycle. Yeah. But sometimes you just, Russell Martin isn't going to turn this round.
No.
Once you get to a stage like Saturday, I mean, I've been in some bad atmospheres at Ibrox, but Saturday was the worst.
Everyone says that, yeah.
And he's actually managed the impossible and almost completely uniting the Rangers support. A support that, if you're 2 Rangers fans in a desert island, you end up with 3 supporters clubs. So it's quite a remarkable achievement in that sense. We do need that stability. The 49ers and the owners have this idea of how to be successful long term. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think you do need to play fast, incisive football to be, to win the league in Scotland. Celtic have proven that. But right now, we've just got to start winning games. You've got to, I'm going to put my hand up, Scott. You were pretty much describing me for a few years there. I think I was among those who was guilty of kind of turning his nose up at Derek McInnes. I think there was a feeling his time at Aberdeen had been actually a wee bit underwhelming. He should maybe have challenged a bit more when he was there.
Won more trophies.
Yeah, I think now he's obviously developed as a manager. I would always say, two wrongs don't make a right. Some guys have been talking about, bringing Barry Ferguson back. Now, the thing is, I think Barry Ferguson would immediately improve Rangers, but it doesn't necessarily mean that Barry Ferguson, because his managerial career, right, like Russell Martin, there's no real evidence, there's no real weight behind it. Two wrongs don't make a right. But right now, it's just, I wish I knew what the right answer was, but something needs to change, or else this season, actually the season won't be finished by October, because I'm pretty sure the relegation battle might go on a bit longer than that, if we're not careful.
That's the point about Russell Martin. I think most Rangers fans accepted that it was going to take a little bit of time. I don't think fans expected it to be perfect right away.
But you need evidence of something. That's where you're going.
Exactly. And also, Russell, I keep saying this, Russell Martin said himself the day he came in that he had to try and build something, but he accepted that he had to do it while winning. He knew the sketch. He knew the club had been there. He knew that they had to win. Even though he wanted to change the culture, change the mentality, totally revamp the squad, it was seismic change. But he accepted himself that he had to find a way to win while doing that, and he's not done it. No, so he's failed in that regard. There's no getting away from that. And to go 5 league games without winning,
unbelievable.
You can't beat Dundee at home. No, even the cup performance against Alloa was dire. It's like, I mean, no, knocked out the Champions League, you can maybe forgive them, but even that was an embarrassment because of the nature of
way they went out,
the manner of it. There's so much evidence stacking up, as Douglas says, to suggest this isn't going to turn. It's just no working. And sometimes you just need to admit, you just need to hold your hands up and say, look, we got it wrong. And honestly, for the league to be over, I said this earlier on, I mean, a year ago, Rangers had given up the title so early in the season because they were in the midst of this stadium shambles where they couldn't play games at Ibrox. They were at Hampden. Philippe Clement had the rug pulled from under his feet by the board in terms of budget cuts and having to let players go and sign guys in the cheap. I mean, it was like you couldn't believe Rangers had literally just handed the title on a plate to Celtic, and you thought that just can't happen again. But it has. But even earlier, it's gone already, and that's unforgivable. And listen, honestly, I like Russell Martin. I think he's been, for us as journalists, I think he's actually been really good to deal with. I've spoken a couple of times away from press conferences. I find him a genuine, honest guy, and I wanted him to do well at Rangers. I spoke to people I knew within the game, really respected guys like Stephen Naismith and Graham Dorrans and people like that who'd worked with him. Obviously, not worked with him as a coach, but knew him as a person. Having played with him at Norwich, and even guys like Naismith had been at Southampton and watched him work and stuff. And I was they almost kind of won me over because I was sceptical. Initially, when obviously he was the guy, but they almost kind of won me over. And I thought, no, this guy deserves a crack at it. I think, given time, he'll get it right. But my God, I couldn't see this coming.
Have you, not without naming names, but have you spoken to anyone since who was so pro Martin to say, well, what are you saying now?
No, I've no, and I would love to.
I just mean even informally, just like a text, anybody just to say, look,
I spoke to somebody a couple of weeks ago that I had kind of spoken to before it, and they were totally backing him. And
right, okay.
No, they were totally backing him initially, and that's what I'm saying.
Right, all right, okay.
I went back to them to say, look, what do you think? What's happening? And to be honest, they were still trying to back him and say, look, you need to give it time. He will get it right. But I just not having it. I can't see it. I want to see it. I want to see.
Yeah.
Well, I want to see something within that team in terms of a style. But as we touched on earlier, I mean, honestly, that first half at the weekend, no cohesion. No patterns of play, no attacking intent, nothing that you can see that they've worked on, and that for a coach, that must be the worst feeling ever.
Yeah.
Russell Martin's no daft. He must know that.
It's the way it's going. It's just as you say. It's how it can go so badly wrong. I mean, it's like whatever you think of Russell Martin, he did get Southampton up, albeit via the playoffs. And you can look back at that season. There was a few English journalists on a radio show at the weekend, and they were picking holes in that. And he took a couple of heavy beatings that season. They almost tied. I think Russell Martin references a 25-game club record unbeaten run, so he points to that. So, look, whatever you think, he is a guy who has managed and sort of worked his way up. To not be able to win a game with that squad. See if you took a manager from League Two in Scotland and you stuck them in there in June and gave them that squad of players, I bet they would probably have been able to win one game.
I mean, nothing would please me more than to be sitting here in 8 months with egg in my face on this. Nothing would please me more. But the body of evidence just doesn't suggest it. And I'm reminded of a story I read recently when, and this for me sums Russell Martin up. When Tony Pulis got Stoke promoted to the Premiership, he phoned Sir Alex Ferguson for some advice, and Alex Ferguson said, if opposing managers are coming away for games against you praising you, then you're doing it wrong. And I think back to all the praise Russell Martin took from opposing managers when he was Southampton manager, because it's dead easy to praise a guy whose team you've just scalped. So for me, that sums Russell Martin up. His teams are easy to play against.
On Saturday that was more of a kind of sympathy.
I mean, I'm also reminded. I remember a headline last year. Brendan Rodgers saying he thought Philip Clement should have got more time at Rangers. Well, of course, Brendan Rodgers thinks that.
Where I don't think he's helped himself, Gav, just in terms of actually on the pitch. He obviously he tried to bring in this style initially, right? And it obviously wasn't working. They got to the Celtic game, and I don't know if Douglas agrees, but it felt, and Russell Martin actually touched on it himself afterwards, go to the Celtic game and he changed. He did change. He's a manager that people accuse of no change and sticking to principles and that. He made tweaks in that Celtic game, in terms of playing with two sitting midfielders, and in terms of the fullbacks, no coming in to kind of build the play for the back. It was a far more kind of conventional back four, if you like. And just in general, there was the long throws, for instance, Tavernier running from one side of the pitch to another to go and take a long throw against Celtic. It was a lot more pragmatic that day. And all right, they didn't create a lot of chances, but there was a resilience about them at least. Celtic were poor in the day, let them know, getting away for that. But it gets them a point. It wasn't the worst result in the world. So you think after seeing that, just stick with it. Just stick with it. Even if the next game you need to grind it out again, it's just a 1-0 win against Hearts, for instance, that would then buy you a bit of time. It gets the punters maybe back on side a wee bit. But to me, it felt like on Saturday he said, well, I changed it for Celtic because it was Celtic and we had to. But listen, it's only Hearts now, so we can go back to my way of playing. Let's go back to this kind of style. And again, they were undone by it. So I think stuff like that. That's where I don't think he's helped himself. That kind of, I don't want to call it arrogance. I mean, that sounds really negative, but ultimately that's kind of what it is. My way is the way. That's what's going to get us results, when clearly a blind man can see that's not getting them results, certainly not at the start of this season.
I think arrogance is fair. I think that's a fair description. Any good team, for me, the first thing you do when you're trying to build a team is you make yourself hard to beat.
Yep.
And Russell Martin's teams are not hard to beat. They're not hard to play against. Scott, you're spot on. And we were actually talking about the Celtic game in the pub before and after. And the feeling was before it that we would see something a bit more like that.
Yep.
And obviously after it, I've got to be honest, the result didn't surprise me, but it did surprise some of the guys we were with, because they expected something similar to the Celtic game. And they thought after 2 weeks in the training ground. But we've just went back to that. I don't think the players are playing for him either, which is an issue. I just think this only ends one way. You can't. It's I don't think MD would have ever come back for what happened on Saturday. I think he's lost the dressing room, he's lost the support, and this only ends one way. It's just a matter of when it happens, not if.
A perfect example of that, just in terms of that kind of pragmatism and the kind of playing style, is John Souttar, Douglas. So I go and I went and watched Scotland last week, 2 games, and John Souttar was absolutely outstanding. The 2 games. I know the second game's only Belarus, right? But Denmark away, absolutely outstanding centre back display. And then I watched him on Saturday, and it's like a different player. And that can only be down to the style and the strategy and the way he's been asked to play. Because Scotland will be completely different. No, we're talking about pragmatism. We don't get a more pragmatic manager than Steve Clarke, who will just ask centre backs, especially, to do the basics and defend. And that's when I think John Souttar's probably at his best. So that's where, again, I don't think the manager, I don't think Russell Martin's helped himself. As you say, after that Celtic game, just stick with it. Stick with the basics. Make yourself hard to beat. Guarantee yourself a clean sheet, and hope that you get a goal at the other. Hope that somebody at the other end, a Gassama or a Majovski or whatever, produces something. But again, they stuck to this. And I know when Fury fans, I think Douglas will back me up on this, so many times at the weekend, Butland, Souttar, Giga are getting the ball at the back, and Hearts are obviously pressing them for the front, and there's no options in front of them. And yet I'm watching Majovski, who actually felt a bit sorry for it at the weekend, screaming for the ball, and yet there's this reluctance from the centre backs and the keeper to just go and hit Majovski. I'm not saying go play punt it up the park, play a long ball into a chance. I'm talking about just using your centre forward, just hitting your striker. Taking Hearts' press out of the equation, hitting the striker, and then getting players run about him. They just wouldn't do it. And the longer they dwelt on the ball and dilly-dallied, the crowd get on their backs more, and the whole thing just snowballs. And listen, that's where the manager has to change. And if we don't see a change on Saturday against, by the way, a Hibs team, we can almost guarantee will score at Ibrox. I think Hibs are poor defensively, but in terms of the attacking threat that they've got, it's a massive worry for Rangers and Martin. And if they don't change the way they're playing or the way they played on Saturday, they'll just get undone again.
And it's another manager coming to Ibrox who, quite frankly, on the early evidence, looks a better manager than Russell Martin as well. So,
well, we'll see how it goes then on Saturday. All will be revealed. In the meantime, we can do a bit of bonding. So what do you want? Is it swimming trunks or is it drinking trousers? What do you prefer?
Oh, definitely drinking trousers.
I'll see you in the Roddy Do later, Gav.
Right, okay. Right, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks Douglas, thanks Scott, and to everyone who's watching. And don't remember, you can catch us on all the usual socials on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, and Apple Podcasts. We'll be back again next week to discuss all the latest from Ibrox. Thank you, everyone.